When creating a character in Dungeons & Dragons, there are three ways to which you can determine ability scores: standard array, point buy, and rolling for stats. In this video, we're going to focus on the latter two. Although standard array and point buy aren't not that different, we're going to focus particularly on point buy. Now, point buy is a system where you start with 27 points in which you buy into your 6 stats: strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. And for each point you want to increase your score, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Rolling for stats is taking a 4d6, rolling the 3 numbers, dropping the lowest number, and then determining your stat from there. There are other ways to do it. You can do a flat 3d6. You can do a flat d20 roll. But the standard is 4d6, drop the lowest. And in this video, I want to talk about the problems that exist with stat rolling and why people like rolling for stats, and what can we do to get the perfect mix of what's good about point buy and why people like stat rolling. Imagine this: you are invited to join in on the Dungeons & Dragons game. You are told that this game is going to have fights with dragons, great ship battles, runs from the law, and you excitedly roll your stats for what type of character you want to be. You're thinking of some brave hero with a sword and a shield who's going to fend off the great evil, and you roll a character that looks like this. This is not the stats of an adventurer. This is the stats of someone slightly more competent than a commoner. This is a commoner who eats more protein. You can't be an adventurer with these type of stats. Or sure, you can, and you could have fun with a character like this that starts off as very mundane. But if we're being honest with ourselves, that's not why most people go to D&D. And that's the main argument of this video, because any argument that I can make against rolling for stats, anything I can say on why this is bad, why it makes the game less fun, people could say, oh, well, I would actually find that more fun. And you are totally valid for finding that way more fun. I am speaking from personal experience that when you join in a game and feel weaker or underpowered, it becomes less fun. Or at least if you have less experience, you're going to have a lot less fun. When I play, I enjoy the successes just as much as I enjoy the failures. That nat 20 makes me as excited as that nat 1, because I've been playing for long enough that I understand that there is fun in failure. At the same time, when I make my characters, I always make them in the sense of that they have at least one thing that's their thing. When I make my wizard, I focus on having a wide variety of different spells. Or I might focus on a specific type of spell to make them very unique compared to other spellcasters. I love teleportation spells. Every wizard I make is going to have Misty Step, and if my DM allows it, Vortex Warp. I just think teleportation's very cool. You could have a bard. A bard is going to want to feel like one of the most charismatic people in the room, just like how a barbarian is going to want to feel like the strongest, a wizard's going to want to feel like the most intelligent, and so on, so on, so on. The issue when you roll for stats is that you can end up in a situation where you're sitting at the table playing a regular old bloke when you wanted to be an adventurer, The guy next to you has stats that look like this. A character who outshines you in every single way. Actually, no, that is wrong. He has an 8 in intelligence. You have a 9. Mechanically makes no difference, but you are technically smarter. Not mechanically, technically smarter. And this character, by the way, I don't think would necessarily be that fun to play. I feel like being so overpowered at this point, there's not a lot to start working towards. And you're not going to, other than in the abilities which you get that make you feel stronger, if I were to roll this, I might ask my DM if I can at least drop the wisdom or charisma. And that's actually another counter argument that I would expect to hear. Oh, if you roll like this in my games, if you don't like the roll you get, you can just take point buy if point buy would be better, or you can try rolling one more time, or you can roll as many times as you need until you get something that's not too overpowered and not too underpowered. And if we just keep re-rolling until we get stats we're happy with, why don't we just start with a base set of stats that work? So the question is, why do people like rolling for stats? Why do people like to invite the opportunity to have to play an entire campaign with a character that's kind of shit, or a character that is just too capable and outshines everyone in the party? Why do people like to invite that conflict? Now, one answer, randomness. People like randomness. That's why we play with dice. If randomness was something we were afraid of, we wouldn't use dice to play the game. But we do, because the wins and the losses are just as fun. However, there's no real way that point buy can address that. Point buy can't be random. The whole point is that every character gets the same choice in stats. So we can't address that when altering point buy. But I feel like we can alter point buy to address two other things that people want to get out of it, which is the higher highs and the lower lows. When people play, they like to have the +5s and the +4s at level 1. With point buy, you can only get a +3. So the first thing I'm going to suggest, light warning, just let you buy higher. Now, there are resources on the internet that let you do this exact thing. What I'm suggesting is nothing new, but if you just tell your players, oh yeah, you can buy up to an 18, then that player who wants to be the smartest person in the room can be the smartest person in the room. You can have a 20 and literally be as smart as anyone could possibly be. You can have a player who wants to be the most charismatic, the strongest, and you can get those 18s, you can get 17s, 16s, whatever. You can actually get more out of it. And to compensate this, because 15 points is a lot of points to spend, as well as players do like having characters with really bad stats. Players want to be below 8 sometimes. I've had characters who, it's like, oh, I want to play a really dumb barbarian, but then my lowest roll's a 10. It's like, okay, I have a barbarian who's not that dumb, he's pretty average. So why not just sell points? Selling points would allow you to take that 3 or that 5 or that 6. As you can see, selling points is not as advantageous as buying points. You don't get a lot out of it for taking a 3, but that's mostly just a balance thing, so that way you can't just fully min-max and get 3 18s and then take 3 3s. However, to make characters that's slightly bit more powerful, because let's be real, D&D is a power fantasy game. We all want to be more powerful. Up the base points to 30. That makes sense to me because an 18 costs 15 points. So in theory, you could have two 18s and then 8s all across the board. I don't know why, I just like that. I think that makes sense. 18 would cost half of your total points. And yeah, I would like to hear from people. And most importantly, I want to know, why do you roll for stats? Is it just that's the way everyone else does it, so I do it? Is it I want to do point buy, but I know I'll get a better character if I roll for stats, so I do so? Is it any of the reasons I've already stated before? I know this is a brand new channel. I don't really know how many people are going to see this, but I am really interested, anyone who happens to see this. I want to know what other people think about this.